I was a U.S. Marine soldier who saw strange animals on an island. It was during a training exercise in the Pacific Ocean. We were on a small island, and I was out on patrol with a few other Marines. We were walking through the jungle when we came across a clearing. In the middle of the clearing was a large animal. It was about the size of a bear, but it had the head of a lion. It had long, sharp claws and teeth. We all froze, not knowing what to do. The animal looked at us for a moment, then turned and ran away. We were all shaken up by what we had seen. We didn't know what to make of it. We had never seen anything like it before. We decided to keep it to ourselves, and we never told anyone about what we had seen. A few weeks later, we were back on the island for another training exercise. We were walking through the same clearing when we saw the animal again. This time it was not alone. There were several other animals with it. They were all different sizes and shapes, but they all had the same features. The head of a lion, long, sharp claws and teeth. We were terrified. We didn't know what to do. We just stood there, frozen in fear. The animals looked at us for a moment, then they started to walk towards us. We knew we had to do something, or we were going to be killed. I took a deep breath and raised my rifle. I fired a shot, and the animals stopped in their tracks. They looked at me with anger and hatred in their eyes. I fired again, and this time one of the animals fell to the ground. The others turned and ran away. We were all relieved. We had survived, but we knew that we were not safe. We had seen something that we could not explain, and we knew that it was dangerous. We decided to leave the island and never go back. We never told anyone about what we had seen. We were afraid that people would think we were crazy. But I know what I saw, and I know that it was real. I still don't know what those animals were, but I know that they were not of this world. I have never been able to forget what I saw on that island. It has haunted me for years. I sometimes wonder if I will ever see those animals again. I hope not, but I know that I will never forget them. I was discharged from the Marines a few years later. I tried to put the experience of seeing those animals behind me, but I couldn't. I would have nightmares about them, and I would wake up in a cold sweat. I would start to shake and I couldn't stop. I knew that I needed help, so I went to see a therapist. The therapist helped me to talk about what I had seen, and she helped me to understand that I wasn't crazy. She told me that there are many things in this world that we don't understand, and that sometimes we see things that we can't explain. She told me that it was okay to be afraid, but that I shouldn't let my fear control me. I'm still not sure what those animals were, but I'm starting to believe that they were real. I'm also starting to believe that they were not dangerous. I think they were just curious about us, and that they wanted to know who we were. I think they were trying to communicate with us, but we didn't understand their language. I'm still haunted by what I saw, but I'm not afraid anymore. I know that those animals were not here to hurt us. I think they were here to help us. I think they were here to teach us something. I don't know what they were trying to teach us, but I'm determined to find out. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know that I'm going to keep searching for answers. I'm going to keep trying to understand what I saw on that island. I'm going to keep trying to make sense of it all. I know that it won't be easy, but I'm determined to find the truth. I was a U.S. Special Forces soldier who was deployed to the Middle East. I had seen a lot of death and destruction. I had lost many friends in combat, and I was starting to think that I was becoming numb to it all. One day, we were on a mission in the forest. We were clearing out a village that was suspected of harboring insurgents. We had been walking for hours, and we were all exhausted. I was in the lead, and I was just about to turn a corner when I saw something that made my blood run cold. There, standing in the middle of the path, was my old friend John. He had been killed in action a year ago. I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought I was seeing a ghost. I stopped and stared at him. He was just standing there looking at me. He didn't say anything and he didn't move. I slowly raised my hand and waved at him. He waved back. I didn't know what to do. I was frozen in place. I wanted to run to him and hug him, but I was afraid that he would disappear if I did. After a few minutes, John started to walk towards me. I still couldn't believe my eyes. I was so happy to see him again. I wanted to tell him how much I missed him, but I couldn't find the words. John reached me and stopped. He looked at me for a moment, then he smiled. He reached out and touched my face. His hand was cold. "I'm glad I could see you again. I've missed you." I didn't know what to say. I was so happy to see him, but I was also sad. I knew that he wasn't really there. He was just a ghost. "I've missed you too." John smiled again. "I have to go now," he said, "but I'll never forget you." And with that, he turned and walked away. I watched him go, and I knew that I would never see him again. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the spot where he had been standing. I couldn't believe that I had just seen my dead friend. I didn't know what to make of it. Was it a dream, or was it something more? I never found out the answer to that question, but I'll never forget the day I saw my old friend again. I never told anyone about what I had seen. I was afraid that they would think I was crazy, but I knew what I had seen, and I knew that it was real. I still don't know what it meant, but I know that it was important. A few weeks later, I was back in the forest. I was on another mission, and I was walking the same path that I had seen John on. I was thinking about him, and I was wondering if I would see him again. As I was walking, I heard a noise behind me. I turned around, and I saw John standing there. He was just standing there, looking at me. He didn't say anything, and he didn't move. I was so happy to see him again. I ran to him and hugged him. He hugged me back. We stood there for a long time, just hugging each other. I didn't want to let him go. I knew that I might never see him again. Finally, I had to let him go. "I have to go now, but I'll never forget you." And with that, he turned and walked away. I watched him go, and I knew that I would never see him again. I never saw John again after that day, but I'll never forget him. He was my best friend, and I'll always cherish the memories we had together. I don't know what it meant to see John's ghost, but I believe that it was a sign that he was still with me even though he was gone, a sign that he would always be my friend. I was a U.S. soldier stationed in Iraq. I had been there for a few months, and I had seen a lot of death and destruction. I had lost many friends in combat, and I was starting to think that I was becoming numb to it all. One night, I was on guard duty. I was sitting in a watchtower looking out over the desert. It was a clear night and the stars were out. I was starting to doze off when I heard a noise. I looked up and I saw something that made my blood run cold. There, standing in the middle of the desert, was a creature. It was tall and thin, with long arms and legs. It had pale skin and large black eyes. It was wearing a tattered uniform, and it had a sword in its hand. I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought I was seeing a ghost. I was so scared that I couldn't move. I just sat there, frozen in fear. The creature looked at me for a moment, then it turned and walked away. I watched it go, and I knew that I would never forget what I had seen. I reported what I had seen to my commanding officer, but he didn't believe me. He told me that I was just imagining things, but I knew what I had seen. I knew that it was real. I started to do some research, and I found out that there were many reports of strange creatures being seen in Iraq. Some people said that they were ghosts of soldiers who had been killed in battle. Others said that they were demons. I didn't know what to believe, but I knew that I wasn't the only one who had seen these creatures. A few weeks later, I was on patrol with my unit. We were walking through a village when we saw something that made our blood run cold. There in the middle of the street was a group of creatures. There were about a dozen of them, all standing in a circle. They were all wearing tattered uniforms, and they all had swords in their hands. We all froze. We didn't know what to do. We were outnumbered, and we didn't have any weapons. We were just sitting ducks. The creatures looked at us for a moment. Then they started to walk towards us. We all raised our hands in surrender, but it didn't do any good. The creatures kept walking towards us. Just when it seemed like they were going to attack us, they stopped. They all turned and looked at something behind us. We turned around and we saw a man standing there. He was wearing a long black coat and he had a beard. He had a strange look in his eyes. The man raised his hand and the creatures stopped walking. They all turned and looked at him. The man spoke to them in a language that we didn't understand. The creatures listened to him, then they turned and walked away. The man turned to us and smiled. "Do not be afraid. They will not harm you." We didn't know what to say. We were still in shock. "Who are you?" "I am a friend. I am here to help you." He didn't say anything else. He just turned and walked away. We watched him go, and we knew that we would never forget him. We didn't know who he was, but we knew that he was a friend. I never saw the creatures again, but I never forgot what I had seen. I still don't know what they were, but I believe that they were ghosts. I believe that they were the ghosts of soldiers who had been killed in battle. I believe that they were trying to protect us. I don't know why they were protecting us, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful that they were there to help us. I'm grateful that they didn't harm us. I'll never forget what I saw that night. I'll never forget the creatures. I'll never forget the man who saved us. A few months later, I was discharged from the army. I was glad to be home, but I couldn't stop thinking about the creatures. I wanted to know more about them. I wanted to know why they were protecting me. I started to do some research, and I found out that there was a long history of reports of strange creatures being seen in Iraq. Some people said that they were ghosts of soldiers who had been killed in battle. Others said that they were demons. I didn't know what to believe, but I knew that I wasn't the only one who had seen these creatures. I decided to go back to Iraq. I wanted to find out more about the creatures. I wanted to know why they were protecting me. I went back to the village where I had seen the creatures. I talked to the people who lived there, and I asked them if they had ever seen anything like it. They told me that they had seen the creatures many times. They said that they were the ghosts of soldiers who had been killed in battle. They said that the creatures were protecting the village from evil spirits. I didn't know what to believe, but I was starting to think that the people of the village were right. I started to believe that the creatures were ghosts. I started to believe that they were protecting me. I stayed in the village for a few weeks. I talked to the people and I learned about their culture. I learned about their beliefs. I learned about their history. I started to feel like I belonged in the village. I started to feel like I was part of something bigger than myself. I started to feel like I was home. One day I was sitting in the village square when I saw a man walking towards me. He was wearing a long black coat and he had a beard. He had the same strange look in his eyes that I had seen before. The man sat down next to me and smiled. "I am glad to see you again," he said. "I have been waiting for you." I didn't know what to say. I was still in shock. "Who are you?" "I am the one who saved you," he said. "I am the one who protects this village." I didn't know what to say. I was still in shock. "Why are you helping me?" "Because you are my friend, and I am here to help my friends." He didn't say anything else. He just smiled and turned and walked away. I watched him go, and I knew that I would never forget him. I knew that he was a friend. I stayed in the village for many years. I learned a lot from the people there. I learned about their culture. I learned about their beliefs. I learned about their history. I became a part of the village. I became a part of something bigger than myself. I became a part of the home. I never saw the man again, but I never forgot him. I still don't know who he was, but I know that he was a friend. I'm grateful for the time I spent in the village. I'm grateful for the people I met there. I'm grateful for the things I learned there. I'm grateful for the man who saved me. I'm grateful for the friend who helped me. I'll never forget him. I'll never forget the village. I'll never forget home.